Hello and welcome to The Last Word on Spurs. We are, of course, your multi-award winning Tottenham Hotspur podcast, becoming daily at the moment. At some point, we've got to strip this back. If you're to the very, very first time, you can find us on iTunes. We're on Spotify. We're across all major audio platforms. We're, of course, on X. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. And we are, of course, on Blue Sky too. I've got a fabulous returning top-tier panel that are going to bring you their feelings, their emotions, their reactions to a rare interview. Yeah, you heard it right. A rare interview with Daniel Levy and new CEO Vinai Venkatesham as they cover Spurs moving forward post Ange Postecoglou. The desire, and don't laugh when I say this, don't laugh to rival fans out there, Tottenham's desire to win the Premier League and the Champions League. Why am I laughing? And what the future looks like under new head coach Thomas Frank, helping me break it down, dissect it all. Back with me, I've got him twice in a week. I'm blessed. I've got the wonderful Billie T back alongside me. Bill, how are you? Lovely to see you.
Hello, man. Honoured to be on with this amazing panel, and looking forward to get into it, man. I thought we were having summer off though. It's been crazy, man. It's been crazy.
You know what's funny? People are being driven mad with me more now since the season's ended than when they were when the bloody season's on. So that'll just tell you what kind of relationship we're in with this football club.
Like a Conte pre-season, this one, isn't it? There's no rest for us.
Where everyone's doing 90 yards and puking up, and we all just want to get to the start of the season now. We're all getting excited again. This football club, what does it do to you? Also back on the show, we've got the wonderful Ash over at the Spurs Kings. Ash, how are you? Let me know, have you back here?
Blessings, my people. Blessings, man. Of course, look, the weather is beautiful. The sun is shining. What more could we want? However, things at Spurs, they never stop, man. And we got to dissect it, man. We got to delve in, Rick. So
we got to dive in
with it, man.
We got to dive in. Take those armbands off. Dive into the deep end, and don't look behind you. One man who always is in the deep end when it comes to Tottenham, and is always trying to find himself the shallow end at this football club. You'll know that from those wonderful vlogs he gave us last season. And I know he's been told, "Come on, we've got to see a smile at some point." That smile's coming back, I can tell you, at the start of the season. It's Jonny, 83232. YouTube's around Football Inc. as well. Jonny, talking Tottenham 882. John, how are you? Love to have you back alongside us.
I'm great, and I'm smiling. Thomas Frank's in the building.
Or is he in the building?
He's now left the building. Hopefully he'll be coming out. Listen, just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in. That's we thought it was safe to swim in the water, and then the shark came again. Listen, look, lots to debate tonight, and privileged to be on with a great panel tonight. And thanks for having me back.
Bless you, mate. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. It's funny because everyone keeps saying it's Thomas Frank's in the building. No one's seen him. No one's heard of him yet. And everyone keeps saying, is it actually happening? We actually got him. I think he's on his holidays at the moment, from what I've been told. So I'm sure at some point the interview will drop. But all like the things that do seem to happen in the world of Spurs, they drop at the most inconvenient times. So I'm now expecting that interview to drop at 11:15 on a Friday night, put the takeaway down, and figures we haven't got to do that. Listen, let's hope it comes at a reasonable time this week, that Thomas Frank interview. But look, the main interview we're talking about, obviously, on this show is that one that we discussed at the very top, Daniel Levy and new CEO Vinai Venkatesham. In what there'll be some that I'm sure will agree on this panel as well, that actions will most certainly have to speak louder than words. So look, let's try and bring in that interview from the two men at the very, very top, and then we'll come back afterwards and dissect it all.
I've known Vinai for a number of years. Without doubt, he was the candidate. Sometimes, when you employ somebody, you don't know if you're going to get on. But because we've known each other, that risk wasn't there. So I'm very excited that Vinai's joined us, and I think the club is going to benefit enormously from it. Vinai, good communicator, honest, integrity, bright, right? Enjoys being challenged, and I want to be challenged as well.
Working with good people is one of the, if not the leading characteristic I look for when I'm doing a new role. Daniel and I have known each other professionally, as we've said, for a really long time. And I think we've got really complementary skills, and I think we're going to form a really powerful partnership. I'll be taking more of a lead day to day on operational matters on the pitch and off the pitch, but we'll be working on everything together. And certainly there won't be any decisions of any significance that happen at the club that we're not completely joined at the hip on. That doesn't mean that we always agree. We often disagree, and we often challenge each other. But I think that's a good thing. And I think by working together, we'll get to better answers. I think I've got some experience that is going to be valuable and is going to be helpful. But I don't have all the answers. I need to learn. I need to understand more about this football club. And listen, ultimately, in terms of how I see it, it's quite simple. I think a football club exists to make its supporters proud. And the way that you make your supporters proud is by competing to win and ultimately winning trophies. Doing that in a way that's consistent with the histories and the values and the traditions of a club that have been built up over many, many decades. And I'm genuinely not just saying it because he's sitting next to me, but Daniel was a key part of my decision as well. I think one similarity we've got, which is probably not healthy, is I know that we're both absolute workaholics, and there are lots of WhatsApps pinging between us at all hours of the day.
I thought you were going to say we both like red wine.
Yeah, but I don't know as much. I don't know as much about red wine as you. So my immediate priorities around joining the club are really threefold. The first is, of course, football, both on our men's team and our women's team. Obviously, we've got Thomas joining to be our head coach of our men's team. We're all super excited, but the hard work starts here. For our women's team, we've made a difficult decision around Robert. Grateful for everything he's done for the club, but we are going to make a change there as we've announced. So busy in a process at the moment to determine who the next coach will be of Tottenham Hotspur women. I am very focused on spending a lot of time to understand what's important to our supporters. So I'm listening, I'm watching, I'm reading, and I'm speaking to supporters. Some of that is structured, so I've got meetings with the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust and the Fan Advisory Board coming up in the next couple of weeks. And I want to learn. I want to learn what's on the mind of our supporters. And the final priority for me is spending time with as many of our 800 people as I can. Understanding from them what does the club do brilliantly well that we can build on, and what are the areas where we can improve, because we want this to be the best possible football club it can be. And we've got 800 supremely talented people in this organisation, and we want to make sure that we get the most out of them to further the club.
I'm very grateful to Ange. I don't regret appointing Ange. In his first season, we finished fifth, and in our second season, we were over the moon to win a trophy. But we need to compete in all competitions, and we felt that we needed a change. I've got an excellent relationship with him. I told him you're always going to be part of our history. Himself and his family always welcome back. It was a collective decision. It wasn't my decision. We do everything together. Emotionally, it was difficult, but we believe we've made the right decision for the club. Whenever you have a new coach, it's always a fresh start. Always have different ideas. But, we want to build on the success of winning a trophy last season. I mean, one of the things that stood out to me with Thomas, clearly highly intelligent, great communicator, superhuman being, plus all the other technical aspects that are obviously important. But, they really stood out to me in those 2 parts.
So we ran a really, really thorough process at Speed. We defined 10 characteristics that we think are important to be a successful manager at Tottenham Hotspur. We analysed in real detail, through our technical staff led by Johan, more than 30 candidates. We had a shortlist. We spent a lot of time with the shortlist, and Thomas was absolutely the number one candidate and could not be more excited to have him join the club. I agree with everything that Daniel said around his characteristics. Personally, one of the things I'm really excited about, that he is an outstanding developer of young players. So I really look forward to seeing what he can do with the squad that we have here. I think the club has got wonderful foundations. I'm biased. I grew up in London, so I think the club is based in the greatest city in the world. It has an outstanding stadium and training centre, and it's got a huge global fan base. The foundations are brilliant, but I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that there was another level that this football club can get to. We've got a bit of a taste of that in Bilbao. I think everyone associated with the club wants more of that. And I think there is another level this club can get to, and I wouldn't be here if I didn't think that level was there.
We're very proud of the stadium, but we need to make sure we win on the pitch. There's no point in having a wonderful stadium if you haven't got a wonderful team and winning. I mean, the reason we do all these other events is to provide additional financial resources to the club, which in turn goes back into the team. Everything is about the team. Everything.
I don't know how you do it. I remember, I think when you got to 20 years, you might not remember this. I remember I sent you a nice bottle of wine with a letter saying, I don't know how you've done it for so long, because it just takes everything from you. It just, the energy you need to put into it. So your stamina is quite something.
I've got very broad shoulders. Failure's not an option. The desire to succeed. And because it's so difficult, I want to succeed even more.
My perspective of you is I think you have got a very thick skin and you've got very broad shoulders. But I also see how much it affects you, because I can see how much you want to win. right? So I think sometimes there's a perspective that because you have got a thick skin, that it doesn't affect you. But I see it does. And I could see it in you before the Bilbao final, because I could see just how much you wanted it.
The pressure and the disappointment of not winning over a number of years, I just wanted it so desperately, not just for me, my family, but all the fans around the world. We deserve some luck. And that last 7 or so minutes was horrific. It felt like hours. So when that final whistle went, that was just an amazing experience. And you saw the outpouring of emotion with the parade. You know, it was just incredible. We've won a European trophy. It's not enough. It's what we haven't done that is more important. We need to win the league. We want to win the Premier League. We want to win the Champions League. You know, we want to win.
They want to win. We want to win. Interesting interview. Bill, let's come to you. Change for Spurs member, of course. Your immediate reaction to that 7-minute video there from Chairman Daniel Levy and new CEO Vinai Venkatesham's. What's your takeaway from it?
There's a lot to get into, so I'll say a couple of things just to kick us off, and I'm sure we'll come back around and go into them again. I think first and foremost, on the surface level, it's quite impressive. Like they're saying all the right things, and I think, you know, generally speaking, for a business of that size, that's quite an easy thing to achieve. Like, it's not difficult to write PR for a business like Tottenham and be a football club like Tottenham. We've been really bad at it for a number of years. I think Donna Cullen is not particularly good at PR. I think a lot of the noise coming out of the club over the last, you know, historically, in the ENIC tenure has been pretty poor. You know, remember a couple of months ago, we had that really tone-deaf statement where Daniel Levy was saying that, you know, we can only spend what we afford to, we earn and stuff like that. When he was talking about people keep saying we're the 8th richest club in the world. This is very different to that. And I think, generally speaking, Vinai will improve our communication going forward. I think he's a much better communicator and PR person than Donna Cullen seemed to have been, you know, assuming that's their role at the club anyway. So I think on the face of it, it's positive, sounds positive, but a lot of these things we've heard before. You know, for example, where he said things like, you know, failure is not an option. Everything that we generate from the stadium goes back into the football club. We've heard that many, many times before. We've heard it loads of times in the 5-6 years we've been in the stadium, and it hasn't necessarily transpired on the, you know, in terms of the spending, particularly if we look at the wage structure. So it sounds good, but is it going to be good? That's the next step for me. We have to make sure that, you know, these things that they say, and he's put the bar high for himself now by saying that we want to win the league and the Champions League. Yeah. It's not really something I remember him saying before. You know, he talks about success, but he's never outrightly said we need to win the league and the Champions League. So he set the bar for himself. So I look forward to him reaching that bar. So that'd be brilliant for all of us.
Yeah, listen, if we win the Premier League and the Champions League, that's what we want. So let's hope they do live up to those words. Ash, will come to you, then we'll come around to Jonny. Ash, what was the main takeaways from you from that rare interview?
Yeah, I think it has to be winning the Premier League and Champions League. I think that's all I heard. I'll be honest with you. And I was like, whoa, okay then. Could we get a time limit on that? Do we have like a timestamp or reference? Could you be a bit more specific so we can hold you accountable for that? What does that look like? What does that feel like? Because I think when it comes to, I don't know about you guys, but when it comes to transfers, there's not so much they can do on the pitch because they're not playing on the pitch, you know. All they can do is put their money where their mouth is. Do you know what I mean? And they can back the club properly. What does that mean though to fans? What does that mean to them? Are we on two different pages? Is backing the club meaning, you know, they're gonna break their record for a transfer on a player, and then maybe breaking that wage bracket? Is that success to them? Is that success to the fans? Or do we want that number 6? If we get a number 6 and a forward player, are fans happy then? So it's those kind of intricate details I think more fans want to know. Transparency needs to be another thing. When I looked at it, I was like, okay, cool. You know, they're doing up, you know, this is what we want, this is what we expect. It's an open dialogue, but we've had this before under Ange Postecoglou. He spoke about winning trophies. He spoke about not being top 4, and they clearly know that, you know, fans don't want to be labeled as top 4 club. We want a bit more. And Ange was trying to change that particular culture. So hearing these guys continue that, it's something where we've like, right, you know, we've heard this before, but we need to see action. And it's all well and good saying this when things are running smooth and things are going well. But when days are dark, where are you?
they? Where are you? Where are you talking?
Mavericks, like for the first 8 or 10 games, that's when that's when Levy came out and did the Oxford interview. And then, like, people were sitting there like, oh, we've got our Tottenham back, Coy's Daniel. Do you know what I'm saying? And everyone was taking the mick out of, like, him saying Daniel. But like at the time, because we were winning, like nobody really cared, and some fans did care. But at the same time, we were like, wow, maybe we are moving a bit different. And then also, I do remember when we brought in the Australian CEO, Scott, and people were like, no, Levy's getting less and less involved, and Scott Munn's going to be taking over, the corporate side of things. Then we're going to have.
Never heard from, did we, Ash? We never heard from Scott Mann.
Not a single word. No. And then even before that, I remember when Paratici came in. Paratici came in and he was like, yep, I think Paratici's going to be running a club like how he did with Juventus. He's going to be taking control. Levy's be taking a step back. And then I remember at the start of this, even before Vinai came in, I was told that Levy's going to be taking a step back because, we're going to get the takeover. Look, this new board, it's a big board shift around. And so but when I watched that interview, that little, I don't know what you want to call it, I saw Levy and Vinai tighter than ever. So it looks like Levy's getting his hands deeper and deeper and deeper. And we know by watching that documentary, in terms of like when he was doing the stadium build, how he had cameras dotted all around that stadium watching the workers, because he's so like control freak. I just felt like, I don't know if Levy can really let go, and he wants to be a part of whatever's going on. If it's successful, he wants to say like, aha, see, I did it. It was me. I was a part of it. He's got a slight ego, in my opinion, to say that, this is my project. This is me. I am Tottenham, and I'm going to run it with Vinai, and we're going to do it together. So that was my overall kind of archer thing. What I do want to know though is if Vinai wants to be transparent more, what was those 10 things that they look for in a manager, and who were those managers they were in?
I was about to say exactly the same thing.
That was on my list.
So guys, take over. So I'm talking to you.
Let's come to you, Johnny. Johnny, what was your main takeaways? I mean, as a fan, you are home and away. I mean, did you like the fact we got a bit of clarity there? I mean, what I will just say, and again, I don't mind what people think about this, I do think that Vinai come across ever so well, personable, with a human touch. I mean, that's the first time we've heard him speak as a representative of Tottenham. And if I'll be honest with you, I don't think anyone could have come across better than what he come across in that one interview. Now, I'm only judging it on one interview. The problem, I think, with Daniel is that we've heard, like Billy has said, Daniel say a lot of things on a number of occasions, and it's really hard to believe something where there's been a number of promises that have not been followed through. I think that is where fans have felt, we've heard these kind of things before. The reality is action is going to speak louder than words. What was your takeaways from that interview itself, Johnny?
When Daniel met Vinny, the love story. I mean, honestly, that's what it came across like. We shared a bottle of wine. He spoke about his broad shoulders, his thick skin. I mean, like, come on, like, just it's enough. Look, for me, it's Vinai is very, very impressive. Okay. Sorry, I'm laughing about that. I knew about Vinny's background before, former oil trader, and a very, very intelligent guy who did some incredible work at Arsenal, building up the women's team, building up relationships with fan bases, building up atmosphere, like everything you can think of about running that club. He had a hand in. And I think we can agree, as much as we might hate the red side of of London, that he did a very, very good job tying up deals with Adidas, bringing in Edu and Arteta, being involved in all of these elements. And he's very much hands-on. And I think it's a breath of fresh air. I've got to be honest with you. When I was fuming when they brought Scott Munn in, because I never thought for 1 minute, Scott Munn, MIA, right? I mean, I used to do, where is Scott? Where is Scott Munn, right? Have you seen this man? Like a wanted poster. And it was quite funny because a son of the member of the board actually sent me a picture of him at a game, right? And I posted it. But it's not what you want. If you're being sold change, you need to see change. You need to hear change. And he spoke very eloquently. And quite honestly, I believe that this guy was bought in for a reason. And I'll tell you, as I said to you backstage, when he left Arsenal, he got offered jobs in private equity in Saudi Arabia, big private equity banks in America. He got offered jobs at Newcastle, but he chose to come to Arsenal's arch rival Spurs because he was pitched and sold a project. And that project, for someone like him, would have to have been good enough for him to come and put his career on the line. This is a guy that's run, he's been involved in Wembley. He's been involved in the London Olympics. He's been involved in massive projects. This guy's the real thing. I mean, it's a bit of a little and large. I mean, Daniel, I don't know how tall he is in his high heels, but Vinny's about 6'2". I mean, they might look like that. I don't know if Daniel was in a high chair when they were sitting, but they looked about the same height in the video. But look, I think what we're hearing is what we've wanted to hear for a long time. And the question is, how hollow are the words? Do they have any substance to them?
Yep.
And as I've said prior, I believe there is money available this summer. I believe that Peter Charrington was brought in, like I said, in March. Joe Lewis is private banker, head of Citibank, and Vinny together have massive credibility for that board. And if you're looking to invest into Tottenham Hotspur, with the greatest respect to who were there on the board, without mentioning names, I think these two board members are head and shoulders above the quality of what's been there before. Yep. And I think they will encourage inward investment. And when you think that being involved in private equity and the contacts he has, bringing money into to Arsenal, I think he will do that. And I do believe, Ash, that we will see a big money signing, and I do think we will see decent spending, and I do believe that we will break this ridiculous wage threshold, because otherwise the words will, everything that was said in that video within 2 months will be completely hollow, because we will know once that transfer window goes and the dawn goes very at the end of August.
Yep.
If we don't see all of those promises fulfilled, they might not be your player, but they might be an equivalent player. And if they're not, Billy, Change for Tottenham, and the rest will reconvene, and the conversation and the message will be completely different to had it not been like for Billy. Hopefully, we heard him talk about meeting the fan base. Meeting people like Change for Tottenham and others. And please God, they do. And please God, he will listen. I personally believe he will listen. People can say I'm delusional, but I believe in this guy. Notice who I say I believe in. I've mentioned one guy, okay, that I believe in. So let's hope that this is the start of a new dawn, because that trophy win in Bilbao was so special. Let's not hope it's a damp squib. I know a lot of people are, upset at the loss of Ange. I understand that, but as he said, we've moved on. We thank him, but let's hope that this is now the start of an upward journey of us being competitive and buying the players that this club and this fan base deserve, and stop the pain and suffering we've all had for years. It's time to end.
Totally agree. Look, we have got over 6,000 that are watching the show live. As always, guys, thank you so much for all your incredible support for Last Word on Spurs. I do think this is a very important episode that I would like to get translated out to the worldwide Spurs audience, because we talk about a subject here and board, chairman, new CEO, that I think it's important that a lot of fans have their view, have their say. And I would encourage you and implore you, do get involved in the comments of this show. I see every one of those comments that do come in. So I urge you, if you can, keep liking, keep subscribing, push us out to a worldwide Spurs audience. If I'm going to come round to you, Bill, I just want to ask you your thoughts on Vinai initially, bearing in mind, he's the new guy on the scene. And, I guess for him, the most important thing from his perspective is trying to engage and come across really likeable to the Spurs fans. Because I think, as you've said in your opening piece, we've been crying out for a long, long time under the ownership of ENIC to have somebody that can be as a conduit, if you want to call it as much, that can give us an opportunity to really engage and actually understand what's going on at the club. And I think Ash said it so right in his opening statement, Bill, that it's all right coming out when we're doing well, when we're 10 games unbeaten, when we're top of the league. What we want to hear from you is when we're not doing well, when we're losing 5 games in a row, when there's question marks over the transfer market about why we're not trying to improve the squad in certain areas, why we're not trying to break down this wage to revenue ratio, that if we're going to be honest and say this, Bill, that's going to have to be an element that changes. Because the reality is, if this club, from what they are telling us, their ambition is to win the Premier League and win the Champions League, with all due respect, you can't achieve that on a wages to revenue ratio of 42%. That just can't happen. It simply can't happen, So I want to ask you about Vinai's opening pieces, because there was clarity about the appointment of Thomas Frank and how he plans also to bridge the gap to the supporters. We're hoping he's going to meet for change for Spurs, and you can tell us your feelings on that. But he said his immediate priorities are, in terms of joining Tottenham, football, both the men's and the women's team, understanding what's important to the fans, and spending time with the 800 employees that are at the football club. He's already said meetings are arranged with the Tottenham Hotspur Supporters Trust and the FAB, and they've been scheduled in the coming weeks. And he added that he's been listening, watching, reading, and talking to fans to understand their views. Thoughts on that, Bill, for you?
Yeah, so I can reveal that Change for Tottenham have been in contact with the club about this directly. We want to be an alternative fan voice. We've been blown away by the support we received last season, and we'd really, really like to get a meeting with Vinai. To express, we think we have a pretty good understanding of a lot of the frustrations of the last, 5, 6, 7, 8 years under this club. When he talks about wanting to listen to fans, we hope he means that, and we hope he means, talk to genuine fans of the club. I know for a fact, because I've spoken to Arsenal fans and I've seen them online. He did a really good job of doing like genuine fan forums, with lots of genuine Arsenal fans, listening to them, talking in front of them, and that would be fantastic at Tottenham. We've reached out to the club; they have got back to us, so dialogue is in the works. We would love to meet them at Change for Tottenham. We certainly are pushing for that. So watch this space. But yeah, I just want to publicly state on record that Change for Tottenham are trying to set up a meeting with Vinai, and we hope to get one. And I hope like I said, I hope all the things that he said are said with genuine, a genuine meaning, because I think one of the things that we've been lacking for a very long time at this football club is accountability. Now, when Daniel Levy made that statement this season earlier, there was no apology to fans. There was no sort of saying, we've messed up this season, we're going to rectify it in the summer transfer window by spending. It was kind of like the opposite of saying, I'm not sure why fans are expecting us to spend this summer, we're the 8th richest club, but we can only spend. There's none of that. So I hope the Vinai era is a change of that. And, Tottenham fans can be a very patient fan base. If we don't win the league this season, we're not exactly going to give up and, go be furious. As long as we know that there's a clear path and a clear direction. And to do that, you just need to communicate it clearly. That's all we want. We want to say, all right, we didn't have the best season this season, but we laid some foundations for what's going to happen. In the summer transfer window, we're going to do this, this, and this. We're going to buy quality players. As long as you're really secure in your vision and really you communicate your vision clearly, I think fans will be on board with the direction that we're heading in. If you can convince fans that we're on the right path, genuinely mean that success is what they're wanting to achieve, and the Premier League and Champions League is what they want to achieve. And to do that, they genuinely need to make some serious changes to the way they spend money, in particular regards to the wage structure. And if I do those things, I think fans will love it and they'll be on board. We just want to come along this journey, and we want to have genuine feeling that. And he did mention, the idea of a football club is to make its fans proud. And that's all we want at the end of the day. That is all we want. So he's taught the talk, but now it's time to walk the walk, as always.
I think that's really fair. I mean, that's a guy that I just feel is really in touch with the human side of fan relations. That's what comes across. I know, Jonny, you've made it very clear in your opening piece. Actually, we come to you because I think one of the key things you picked up on was the fact that the metrics they were measuring Thomas Frank against, because he did reveal, Vinai, that behind the scenes, they obviously have appointed Thomas Frank. There was 30 plus
I want to
candidates
know
for the
that. I
role.
want to know the 30 names as well. I'd love them to drop those names.
And the 10 criteria. I mean, if in the chat there, if you could come up with the 10 criteria, and then we
And
can
the 30 names. I think we should try and guess the 30 names.
Yeah.
Do they always win a trophy in their second season?
Must say yes. Must say yes. Must be willing to take whatever transfers thrown at them. Yeah, I mean that's
We
historic.
must have club signings. Number 4 for the list. Ash, let me ask you. He come to that point of saying 30 plus candidates for the role. Shortlist analysed in real detail. That analysis led by Johan Lange. That would then obviously appear to confirm Johan's not going to go anywhere, which I think we all kind of know now because of the appointment of Thomas Frank and obviously Lange and Frank's relationship. And Frank, of course, the most important thing that I think is the most important thing, because it hasn't always been the case over our recent managerial appointments. Frank was apparently the number one candidate and came out of those metrics absolutely outstanding. Ash.
Yeah, I mean, look, one thing I'd say is that, Lange is the director of football. He's the one that is running the transfers, and he's ahead of appointing the coach, and he's had a great relationship for many years. And we know at Bongby, where he was at first, for Thomas Frank and him had a working relationship there. So they're no strangers to each other. They've got a lot of commonality as well, because they're culturally both from Denmark. Both can speak the language, etc. So it all makes sense. It marries up. So I just want to quickly go back to what Jonny said, that he was talking about, players. We're going to break the wage bracket, and we're going to do we're going to break the transfer record for Spurs.
Is it?
So, but I'm just going to compare it to seasons that have gone past.
Yeah.
And so when things like this happen, I don't want us to be fooled. So that's why I'm pulling it out there. So when we last got into the Champions League with Conte, I remember we signed about 5 or 6 players. And those players I remember it was Basuma was one of the first players we got in.
Yeah.
Loads of fans were quite excited by that appointment. Perisic actually was the first one, my bad. So it was actually Ivan Perisic. Then it was Basuma. So that on the face of it, we got 2 players. Perisic was on a lot of wages at the time. So it deemed across that we were doing things slightly different, and the business was done early. After that, we got Richarlison, I believe, and we got Forster as well. So we got 4 players in really fast. Richarlison actually broke the record at the time, I think. He came in for a good amount of money, and we were asking for a player to supplement Kane. We can't just rely on Kane, and Richarlison was going to be that guy. And then after that, we also got Spence in, if I remember right. And then Longley was the whole debate with amongst the fans. So Longley, people weren't too happy or too sure about it. And we said we needed that kind of left-sided centre-back, that proper, because Ben Davies was more or less surplus requirements back then. And the reason why I bring this up is because we spent quite a lot of money in that transfer window, and it was a Champions League transfer window, but you always felt like we're just one player away. And I want to know are we going to do what it takes? Are we going to go the extra mile now that we've got Champions League money, or now that we're in a position to, and this is Levy's words as well, use it as a springboard to kick on? Are we going to actually do that and behave in the way a lot of fans see our club as a big club, a top 6 or even a top 4, dare I say? Do you know what I mean? That competition at the moment is growing. You're seeing teams like Newcastle, Aston Villa, whether you agree with how they do their business or not, they are our competition alongside Chelsea, who just finished top 4. It's a real crowded space. So, and I go back to the season after that one, the Champions League one, when we brought in Brennan Johnson. So Brennan Johnson was like 50 to 55 mil at the time. So it was big money, and it was a part of the Kane money. And so that was a big window when we got Madison and Van der Ven, etc., etc. Vicario in. And so fans were quite excited, but then you're like, okay, so we spent big then. So the point I'm making, we spent big Conte, we spent big again with Ange, and then in the window just gone, we did break our record again with Solanke. So breaking a transfer record is nothing new to us Spurs fans. We're not going to be fooled if a transfer record is broken again, or even if we do pay high wages, because I've already mentioned Perisic. Do you know what I mean? Are we going to go the extra mile? That's what I want to know. Are we going to do something out of the ordinary where we go for, okay, we're linked to Semenyo and we get an Eze? Do you know, or am I acting too snobbish? Am I acting too much as a fan? Do you know, because this is the number one player we know is going to take us to the next level. Are the club willing to do that? Because the reason why I'm saying that, Chelsea be bending the rules, Man City be bending the rules. You know what Newcastle be? Are we going to do? I'm not saying to bend the rules. I'm not saying that's not. But are we willing to go the extra mark? And that's what because it's all well and saying, oh, you know, Vinai, oh, great appointment. He talks well. He's going to bring in, you know, what he did with Arsenal. Look what he did. I don't care about any of that. I want to know what you're going to do for us. What have you done for me lately? That's the attitude I'm bringing. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a fan. I want better for my club. So that's why I'm talking with the energy and passion.
Ash, they have now set the barrier, haven't they? I mean, Jonny, coming over to you on this point, but they have now set the barrier. As fans, you know, I mean, that's why, even in my piece, people might mock me for laughing about winning the Premier League or the Champions League, but they are the men that have come out and said that is the target. So if that is the target, I think you said this, Jonny, in your opening 9, we are going to know by the end of that transfer window or this transfer window, if based on what we have done is actually measuring against that metric what they're telling us about winning the Champions League or the Premier League. The key thing I think Ash said is, what is the time frame on that? Are we saying that is the ambition for this upcoming season, for the season after that? Let me ask you, Jonny, because Vinai Venkatesham said on Daniel Levy, I don't know how you do it. I remember, I think when you got to 20 years, you might remember this, I sent you a nice bottle of wine with a letter saying, I don't know how you've done it for so long, because it just takes everything from you. And it felt in that moment, he was just trying to give Daniel the opportunity to show a bit of a human side to him about how much the criticism has got him down. And as Daniel has said in that interview, failure is not an option. So it sounds like, based on that interview alone, I don't know if you agree, doesn't sound like he's going anywhere fast at the moment. Maybe things are in the works in the background, but what do you take away from the relationship between the two? Because it does come across like they've known each other for quite a long time. But again, I mean, I'm not, you know, I'm no PR machine. What's your gauge on that?
Look, listen, Vinay has not come here to be yes man. He's a very strong guy in his own right.
He actually said it, didn't he, in that interview? I must just say, Vinay said, he is here to, Daniel said, I'm here to be challenged. So that's obviously a key point as well.
Yeah, listen, Vinay is an extremely intelligent individual, and he's there to run the show, right? You know, he hasn't come in here, he hasn't been offered, turned down all the jobs he's had to be sat there and be a yes man. I mean, he ran everything for the Cronkies. Yes, he reported to the Cronkies, but you're not going to be above the Cronkies. They're a multi-billion-pound organisation, but still he run everything. Listen, they've stuck their head above the parapet, and Ash is right, okay? Talk is cheap. It's the cheapest commodity. He's a commodity trader. He traded oil. Well, he's a commodity. You talk the talk. Now you've got to walk the walk. And by the end of August, we will know, right? We haven't had a wow signing since Rafa van der Vaart, okay? Spurs fans need that now. Whether it's an Eze, I mean, for me, I think Eze is the signing that encapsulates a lot of Spurs fans' dreams of what a Spurs player is and what a great signing is. Okay, he's the one that can set the ball rolling. We don't want to hear of a player. Listen, Ash, I know, does a lot of searching like myself on players all over the place. He's into the form and tactics and everything. But we all want, like you said, you know, bringing in an Mbuemo and an Eze, or bringing in a Semenya and an Eze, or bringing in your Monster Six, you know, whether it's a João Gomez or what's his name from Juventus who was at Villa. It'll come to me in a minute.
Douglas Luiz.
Douglas Luiz, yeah. Douglas Luiz. Wherever it is. Now, I mean, bringing João Gomez in Douglas Luiz probably won't set him on fire, but we need a proper six. But we need signings that make this stand up and look and say, wow, right? We've seen Liverpool smash it, you know, with Wirtz and Kerkez. I mean, some people say Kerkez is not, you know, a wow signing, but he's a very good player. right? Frimpong. You look at Manchester City with their signings there. You know,
that's after winning the league as well. That's after winning the league.
Yeah,
winning the league. Yeah,
exactly. Look,
That's
the one
difference,
team,
man. That's the difference.
Yeah, look, the one team who we're all giving it large about spending the money are the only team right now who haven't gone mad, only spending it on Zubimendi. I think the most surprising club right now who has shown intent is Manchester United by signing Mateus Cunha. The thing with them is they were stopped in their track with their program because two of the players they thought were going out, which was Bruno Fernandes, potentially for 100 million to Saudi, offering him as much gold as he could eat. Yeah. And Jadon Sancho, I mean, Chelsea thought, nah, we'll pay the £5 million fine and send him back. So that's 125 million pounds worth of signings that scuppered them. Now, Spurs have to move quick. And the one thing about Thomas Frank is he has almost like a directory inquiries about a player. You could ask him right now about Man United. You could ask him about all the different clubs and he will list you this player and that player, this player. There's a reason why they call him the professor, because he has that intricate detail down to a T, and he knows all the Spurs players. So unlike Ange, who had to come in and spend weeks, months deciding who was who, I think Thomas Frank will make his decision and his mind up relatively quickly. But I'm with Ash. Talk is cheap, and we need to see a proper marquee signing. It is not just about, I'm not going to disrespect Dom Solanke, right? But for me, last season, all I wanted was Victor Gyökeres. It's another, Harry Kane story. Oh, he's a one-season wonder. He won't do it next season. He just got better and better and better, and the levels have gone up. We need to see that. I don't mind Richarlison. I like Richarlison when he's fit, which isn't very often. But I mean, if we sold Richarlison and we were bringing in a Sesko or a Gyökeres, then you're getting excited. But as the fan base, just to say before I hand that back to you, don't think for 1 minute. Although I love all this and I love what I'm hearing from Vinai, and I believe that something is going to happen, that I'm completely suckered in. We need to see action. Right? Yep. Fans are fed up with it. We've heard it all before, but we can't afford another false dawn, because otherwise Billy would be marching onto his doorstep and banging on his door.
Can I just say, we've got a lot of fan interaction on our X feed from a lot of the listeners on this show. So I'm just going to read a couple of these comments we've had out here. 1882 Spurs says, great to hear the declaration of wanting to win the Premier League and the Champions League. The question has to be asked, though, of how that's achievable on a self-sustaining model and a 42% wage to turnover ratio. It either gets raised by 8 to 10%, or it's just simply delusional. And I think, like we've said on this show a couple of times already, that is going to have to change. Also, Jamie Crypto says, Ricky, my biggest problem with that interview isn't the ambition he talks of, it's the fact that he thinks we need some luck. It's not luck. It's consistent football first decisions and investment. Luck comes from hard work and making the right decisions. It shows a lack of understanding. I mean, I think, again, that word luck, I don't know whether they would Daniel would have regretted using that word luck, because I think a lot of things in life, you make your own luck, right? I think this is a very much key point that we have on there. But Daniel did comment on the fact of the sacking of Ange Postecoglou. And he said on this point, Bill, to come over to you, that it was an emotionally difficult decision. He said he's got an excellent relationship with Ange, and he told him, you're always going to be part of our history. He and his family are always welcome back. It was a collective decision. It wasn't my decision. Emotionally, it was a very difficult one, but we believe we made the right decision for the football club. Do you think, Bill, to stick with you, he has got a super relationship with Ange?
Maybe so. I mean, he should do. He should idolize that guy, because he's given him something which is going to change his life forever, change the way that he's viewed as a Tottenham chairman. The highlight of his 25 years. He should be grateful for that always. I think it's really interesting that he said it. He specifically said this wasn't. I think he came out by saying it wasn't my decision. I think what he meant is it wasn't just my decision. Obviously, he did.
It was
Yeah. But I think he probably knows that there's a lot of unpopularity around that, which does seem to have died down now, which is fair enough. I just think the interesting thing about it is obviously he keeps talking a lot about winning and competing on all fronts. Like they're setting themselves up big time here. If we don't go and do that now, he's going to look really stupid. Like he sacks a winner, he sacks a serial winner, and if he doesn't win, as Ash said, in a time frame that is acceptable for the fans, it's going to look like a terrible decision. Like no ways about it. And he keeps talking about winning. He talks about winning the Premier League. He talks about winning the Champions League. He talks about this is the second time now he's spoken about competing on all fronts. And if he doesn't give Thomas Frank a squad to do that, he's got nowhere left to turn. Like he's said it himself on an interview that the accountability has to be there now. So unless he goes and spends 150, 200 million, increase that wage bill, buy some Premier League players, Semenyo, Eze, Mbeumo, those kind of players. Yeah. He's got nowhere else to turn now because he said it publicly twice. And he keeps hammering the fact that we want to compete on all fronts. Well, give us a squad to do that then, and then we'll shut up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, this is the problem, isn't it? I think we said this on a very frequent basis. When have Tottenham ever been able to really compete on all four fronts? Ash, just coming back around here, and we'll go to Jonny on this. Chairman Daniel Levy on head coach Thomas Frank. He said one of the things that really stood out with Thomas is that he's clearly a highly intelligent individual, great communicator, superhuman being, plus all the other technical aspects that are obviously important. But they really stood out to me on those three parts. What did you make of his comments on Tottenham's incoming, or say incoming, he is the manager, even though we haven't heard from him yet, he is the manager, and we should be hearing from him hopefully before the end of the week. Ash, what do you make of those comments?
Yeah, obviously they had to do their due diligence after sacking of Ange Postecoglou, and the appointment had to be right, and had to continue that kind of theme of winning and wanting to compete in all fronts, because that's one thing Ange Postecoglou didn't do. He sacrificed the league for the glory of the Europa League, and so if they're going to appoint a new manager, that manager has to now do either one better or get to a level where they see some type of progression. So, I mean, for me, if they came out and, as a fan, you have to try to kind of manage expectations. Do you know what I mean? And really, it should be the club that comes out and sets those type of expectations for the people and say, look, I'll be honest with you, we've got X amount to spend because we're trying to seek investment, or we're spending this amount of money because, or not necessarily a monetary number, but some type of communication where they're kind of managing the fans' expectations, where we'll build a club, we build, bit by bit. This is the way we're going for, like how Brentford do it, how Brighton do it. They've tried to say that previously, but obviously the way they communicated that sounded like we're trying to be like Brentford and Brighton, when really we're trying to be more like a Dortmund, because Dortmund also do it that way as well, or even Liverpool before the Alissons and before the Van Dijks. Typically, they kind of built slightly different to your typical Man City or Chelsea's, if that makes sense. So I think if they kind of communicated that in their message alongside with a Thomas Frank, then the fans could kind of get a better understanding and a better picture of what's going on forward. But going back to your question, because I've kind of veered off, I do think that appointment was always going to be a hard appointment, a hard decision, but it was a decision that, in my opinion, it seems like it wasn't rushed. You know what I mean? It wasn't just quickly. It was a well thought out kind of decision. Yep. They kind of got together, and it wasn't like like the Nuno appointment. The Nuno was slightly different because we went through other managers.
We all knew it wasn't first choice. It was
it wasn't first, exactly. Yeah. Whereas Thomas Frank feels slightly different. It feels like
agree.
And also the whispers that he had been speaking to Frank, a couple of weeks before the actual final, gives you a bit more like confidence that there's been more planning. Because I think for a lot of fans, they're always like, what is the plan though? What is the plan? We want to know what the plan is. There's no planning, and it feels like it's just slapdash, opportunistic kind of behavior. And we've operated like that before, not just in terms of like getting Mourinho, because Mourinho felt like an opportunistic signing.
Yeah.
And even Conte, that felt like an emergency one. After we sat Nuno, it felt like, oh my goodness, we need to sort this out. And then we had to beg Conte to kind of almost come. So it didn't feel like it was planned, it was smooth. Whereas this felt like it was slightly more well thought out, more, you know, a process behind it. And yeah, it just feels a bit like, yeah, we're kind of moving in a direction where this guy, he develops young players. We so happen to have a lot of young players, and the director of football that we have is data led, and he likes to recruit the younger players. And that's, so if you've got a manager that marries up with that, it all logically makes sense, and you can kind of make like sense of it all, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, some would argue that the interview, this one in particular, was maybe right to come before Frank, because it does show that there's key decision makers that are hopefully listening and are ready to act. But we've touched upon this already, Johnny, that is only going to come with proof of action, right? I mean, we can sit here and talk about how nice the words were and how it does feel like there's a much more in-touch feeling with that interview in comparison to previous interviews under Daniel Levy's tenure, and the way it does feel Vinai is connected with the fans and echoed that importance around collaboration, but not blind agreement. I think that is really, really important. The focus on making the fans proud, the fact on competing to win, wanting to win trophies, do it the Tottenham way. Look, the proof is going to be in the pudding, isn't it? And it's like you said, John, in your opening line, come the end of this transfer window, I think we're going to get a better gauge, like we are every window with Tottenham, as to what really the general ambition is. Before we do move on, one thing I want to ask you guys to kind of close off on this subject is, now having heard that interview, and yet we aren't privy to what Frank's first words are going to be, I'm sure going to drop some point this week. What do you all look like seeing as a successful first season in charge for Thomas Frank? I'll start with you, Johnny. What would be a successful first season for him in charge of the club?
Just to say, just quickly there, that
yeah,
I think,
please.
You know, that comment of, you know, I think was respectful to Ange. You know, that this search took place, you know, last minute. It didn't, right? Okay. Look, for me, Thomas Frank followed him for a long time since he took over from Dean Smith, for various reasons why I've been following Brentford since the Championship. And I've always really liked him as a manager. And for the people I know who are in football, forget what we think as fans and YouTubers and people make comment on X. In the football world, Thomas Frank is extremely highly rated. And I know it's finding it difficult that, you know, to think, well, why would he ever turn down Man United? But turn down Man United, he did. And he has been linked to various jobs. I think, you know, I can understand why the fan base are completely split on this. I'm obviously a big fan, but I can see why fans looking on the negative side of it will look at it as if, well, here's a guy who's willing to work on a very low budget. He's worked on the second lowest budget in the Premier League for 4 out of the 5 seasons. He'll work with the kids. You know, he's not going to push any buttons, so on and so forth. But I don't view it like that. I view it as a guy who's extremely ambitious, who made demands before he came to the club of what he wanted and what he was going to see. Now, when he walks into that changing room, he's going to get very excited compared to what he's been used to. I won't use the term, what I could be using when he walks in, but he can't get carried away. He can't get too excited, because we know, however excited he is in comparison to what he had, to what he's going to get when he walks into that changing room, that squad is not fit for purpose if you're going to challenge on multiple fronts, as the board says. So we need to see progress. I, for one, wasn't mad on Matthias Tell. I think he's going to be a very good player. But when I think about it, and I've had time to think about it, if I'm honest, I remember what Brian Mbeumo was like when he got hold of him. I loved Brian Mbeumo. I thought he was great, absolutely fantastic pace. But the thing that was missing from his game was his shooting. and scoring goals. And what we've seen with Matthias Tell, 34 games, 1,700 minutes, you know, one tap in, one penalty, and not much else. I see prospect there. He needs the players. If he gets backed properly, I think the most important thing for him, I don't know what you think, Ash, but for me, we all want the attacking things, but unless he gets that monster 6, because he likes to overload the flanks, he needs that 6. If I see him get that 6, that monster 6, whoever that 6 may be, and he gets the other positions that we all know, I mean, the fact that we're still talking about a challenging left centre back is madness after all these windows. I think realistically, I'm going to be realistic here. I think top 6 in his first season, a top 6 and a run in the Champions League and a good cup run, in my opinion, would be deemed a good first season for him. Now, obviously, the problem is with the Ange fans. You're going to hear them say if he doesn't have a good start, like he didn't have at Bromby and Brentford, he's going to be under pressure. But for me, I'm looking for long-term progression. What we had under Ange was early progression, long-term regression, apart from that fantastic night in Bilbao.
Yeah. I mean, I said on Sky the other day that I would take a top 8 finish and a Carabao Cup. And many thought I've lowered the expectations of the fan base. But I mean, I can only speak for me. I can't listen. I would never speak for all Tottenham fans. It's not my place to do that. I only speak for how I feel.
Keep it real. I'm just trying to keep it real.
I mean, I just think if we finish in the top 8 and we won a Carabao Cup, we would have carried on the winning tradition and we would have improved in the league, which would have meant that there's been a development in players that would have meant hopefully we've improved. But look, I would love to get in the top 6. I think my point has been, actually, to come around to you and we'll close with Billy on this, is that I think it's very hard to go from when you've been 17th in the league to go straight back into the top 4. I don't think that's going to be very difficult to do. No one just automatically does that. I mean, I know people will throw the comparisons to me like Leicester, but again, that was a bit of a transition system with Leicester. I know people will throw Forest in that comparison about they've gone from 17th to 6th. I just think, you know, it's not going to be easy to do that. There's going to be clubs that are in and around that top 6, top 7, top 8 that are going to improve, that are going to strengthen their squads. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just trying to be realistic. If you just said to me again, I still maintain my point. I think if we finished in the top 8 and won the Carabao Cup, I would personally take that as being a very good first season under a new manager that's coming in. We've hit the reset button. Remember to change the philosophy, change the structure, change the style, probably change the squad. You may lose Heung-Min, which has been the captain of this football club for many years. I want to close on that in a second. I mean, you tell me, Ash, what would be the ambition or expectation for you?
It'll be interesting to kind of rewind back when Ange was first appointed and we finished 8th the season before, and to hear what Spurs fans' predictions were going into that season. And then obviously, like Jonny's already alluded to, that he started really strong. And then obviously by season 2, he kind of finished and fell flat, apart from the actual cup final, which kind of, papered over the cracks. But I'm looking at, for me, I would rather, and I've said this before, start off a little bit slower, let him learn the squad, make mistakes, let the fans be reactionary. Do you know what I mean? We kind of need that. And then he knows what it feels like to be a proper Spurs manager. Do you know what I mean?
He'll know that anyway. Keep him mum.
He knows already, Ash. All he had to do was read it. I mean, he could have been the first manager to be sacked by the Spurs fan base before he'd been signed, since Rennie could do so.
All I'm just saying, if you want to know what a life is like watching Tottenham, turn this show on for a week and then turn it back off. You'll know very quickly what life is like being a Tottenham fan.
But I'm just saying, like, I want to see how he reacts. I want to see how Vinai reacts, how Langa reacts, how Levy reacts, how Charrington, the new people on the boards, if they've got the stomach to kind of handle that storm again as well.
Yep.
So all of these things, and taking into like consideration the type of window we have, because fans are reactive as well. Sometimes we're over the top when we have a window, like, we've won the window, we've won the transfer window. And then sometimes we're over like pessimistic and we're reactive that way. So we're like, oh my days, this window was terrible. We sign kids again, how are we going to ever compete? So we go from like ultra hot to minus temperatures. And then I'm looking at it now and I'm saying, look, that top 6 is mad competitive. So if you live in a vacuum where you only watch Spurs and Spurs are the only thing that exists, then yeah, you expect Spurs to finish, top 6, top 4 even, and a cup and a trophy.
Yeah.
But when you live outside of that and you start to realize the competition and you compare our midfield, as much as good as you might think it is, with other midfields that we're competing against, e.g. Newcastle, e.g. your Man Cities, your Arsenals, your Chelseas, whatever team you think, your Villas, whatever teams you think. And then on top of it, the front three, because so far we've signed Tell, and Tell was a part of that last 6 months that didn't get that many goals. Let's be real. Everyone's living off potential at the moment. Do you know what I mean? People don't like me saying that. Oh, how can you talk about Tell like that? It's going to be amazing.
We've been doing 25 years on potential. We've been doing 25 years on potential.
Well, so if you think Tell's going to get us top 6 or top 4, what are we doing here? So for me, I'm saying, I said it last time, I said 7th. That's where I live. And if we surpass that, I'm happy. That's the world I'm living in. I want us to finish top 4.
Yeah, of course.
I want us to win the league. I want us to win the league. But realistically, I'm like, boy, you know what? Man City have just done the madness. Liverpool have just broken the British transfer record. I have to kind of bring myself down and be grounded and say, look, we're not quite there yet. And the way this club is operated doesn't indicate that things are going to change overnight, even if they are to change, because one window is not enough, Ricky.
No, we know that.
One window,
2
windows is not enough, Johnny. And Billy, 3 windows ain't enough. We need to keep the pressure on. Do you get it?
For a minute there, when you said like we're going to win it all, I thought you'd been at Daniel's red wine. You got
no.
On this point, Bill, let me come over to you. I want to just quickly fit in quick opinions or quick yes or no's on Heung-Min son Vicario. Bill, let me come to you. Based on what we've been told in that interview, the expectation is we want to win the Premier League. We want to win the Champions League. What are we doing, Bill, for this upcoming season under Thomas Frank, the professor? Johnny
So I got two trails of thought, man. My head and my heart. My head says, we should have a clear progression this season with a view to improving that the season after, and going on a steady trajectory, be able to compete in the next 2-3 years. My heart says I'm so bored of rebuilds. I'm so bored of projects. I'm so bored of all of this, man. I just want to win now again. I want to win. I want to win. I want to win. I want to go out there and spend so much money this summer that we will try and do something this season. I'm so bored of projects and 5-year projects, 3-year rebuilds. I've done it. We've done it for 25 years. I want to win now. So my heart says I want to win something this season. If Carabao Cup, I'll take it all day. Absolutely. I want to win now. I'm so bored of these projects, man. I can't do it anymore.
Bill, I think like we all say, if you give us another week like we had in the build-up to winning the trophy, then the parade, like I cannot wait another 17 years for that. That was unbelievable. And I think we all want that more regularly. And gotta tell you, we love to get it. Right. So there you go. That was that roundup, of course, of that interview that took place between Vinai Venkatesham and Daniel Levy. Like I think we've all said, actions will speak louder than words. That's where that is at. Quickly just going to round up a little bit of news we've had on the Spurs. The Spurs, what do you want to call it? The Spurs rumour mill very quickly. We understand Heung-Min Son, as things stand at the moment, is unlikely to leave the football club before the pre-season tour. His departure would likely lead to complications with the tour organisers, as involvement in various activities whilst on tour will have already been pre-agreed with Tottenham committed delivering on those plans. However, there is a growing sense that Son's future is likely to drag in to the latter stages of the transfer window, and where Spurs are open to selling their captain. And we've heard already that from, again, reliable sources, Son is more eager than potentially ever to leave the football club. We understand there is interest from Saudi Arabia, where up to 3 clubs have stated their interest. And obviously for Saudi, it will help in part to sell television rights to the international audiences. We understand Son in 2023 turned down a move to Al Ittihad, who were willing to pay in the region of 55 million and had offered Son a contract, 4-year contract worth 25 million. Spurs exercised the option to extend Sonny's contract until the 2026 season in January and wanting to commit himself to a longer deal, but largely owing to his commercial value, he refused to do so. They in the end settled on a 1-year extension to avoid losing him for free. We're already hearing reports that allegedly Thomas Frank is keen to revamp his squad following his appointment. A yes or no, guys? Where are we on Sonny? We'll start with you, Johnny. Sonny, what do you want to see happen for Sonny?
Thanks for the memories. Sayonara. I think it's quite fitting. Go out to Korea, say goodbye, wave goodbye to your own fans. Do you give him the Super Cup? as a goodbye? No, I think so. I think it would be the perfect send off for him to. The only thing I would like to have seen, if I'm brutally honest, is a small friendly against some Korean team, whoever it is. Bring them over and have a little friendly game before he goes. I don't see how we're going to fit that in, but I think going out in Korea. Thank you. It's been amazing. It's been memorable. You'll go down in history. And what a way to drop the mic and leave the building.
Ash, gut feeling, Sonny. How do you see that playing out? What do you want to see happen?
Yeah, I think he's said it, man. He's more or less said it in so many words that, I think he achieved what he wants to achieve. He's waited 10 years, he's been loyal.
Yep.
And he's given the fans what they wanted, to be fair. He's done his time, to be fair. So I think most fans will be sad to see him go, but he has to write his own chapter. And like, if he can win silverware elsewhere as a professional footballer, he's got to go and do that. Do you know what I mean? And like, if he stays at Spurs and we don't win next season, then he could have potentially gone somewhere else and lifted the trophy on a personal note. So I'm just trying to be mature about it. But I mean, we are Tottenham, we move on. We're not Son Heung-Min FC. So
so your gut feeling, Ash, you maybe let
I'd say he's departing. I'd say he's departing.
I mean, the thing for me about it, Bill, come over to you, get your view on it quickly, is that I don't want to see Sonny finish at Tottenham the way I've seen other players finish, and they come to the end and you feel like we should let him go a long time ago. I would love to see Sonny go out on his peak like he's done, winning a trophy. I want to remember Sonny for all the greatness of him. I don't want to be a fan that is sitting there next season witnessing such a decline of a player. And I'm not saying Sonny is completely finished. I think next season he's going to have to adapt to being more of a bit part player. I just don't think that suits Sonny. I think Sonny will want to play football. I mean, what do you feel for you, Bill, on that?
Yeah, I think it's probably time, but I hope the main thing I hope is whatever he wants to do, he does.
Exactly.
He's owed that right. I hope we let him go.
Oh, that right. Yeah.
He wants to stay. We can keep him for another year. He's the captain of our club. He's amazing to have for the players. This guy has earned the right to do whatever he wants, and I hope we allow him to do that. I hope we don't stand in his way, going over an offer. He's made us, this club, millions of pounds.
He's a legend.
Yeah.
Legend.
And I'm being genuinely serious. I think we should build a statue of Son. I truly believe that. I think there are plenty of other players we should also build a statue for. I would like our stadium to be a Tottenham stadium, not a soulless NFL stadium. And that starts by building statues of legends. And Son is a Tottenham legend and always will be. So I hope we genuinely do something to remember that.
Yeah, and I think you're right there. For me, whatever is right for Sonny, I think Sonny is owed that right now, given what he's given us with that trophy and his decade of service.
A contract when we had Nuno as manager. He can do whatever he wants to do.
Well, I mean, like I say, he's remained loyal despite all the shit that's happened around him, and I agree on that point. I would like, if it's up to Sonny and Sonny wants to stay, we'll back him, we'll support him. I just don't want to see in that point a decline of a player that we've all absolutely adored and we love him. Jonny, I can see you want to come back on that point very quickly.
No, just to say, I want to see him sail off into the sunset. That's it.
Bless him. We love
Sonny. Interesting thing is that he might actually be more suited to Thomas Frank than Ange.
It's quite funny. You're right. You're right.
He might be.
Listen, we might all be surprised. We're trying to second guess Thomas Frank.
Yeah. Thomas Frank might love him. Thomas Frank might want him to stay. They're going to have to have. You feel there's going to have to be a conversation to be had. You're going to have to. A conversation whether you feel this should or shouldn't be had. Very quickly, guys. Literally a couple of minutes on this. We're hearing reports that Vicario is high on the list of potential AC Milan targets. This is following the news that AC Milan are going to be potentially losing Mike Magnan, despite his move to Chelsea falling through. Again, just tentative reports at the moment that are out there. I mean, he had a bit of a mixed campaign, Vicario, where he made some incredible saves. I mean, at times looked rather suspect. I mean, look, he's part of Tottenham's leadership group, as we know. He was adored by Ange Postecoglou, who described him as a wonderful asset. I think there's been talk Milan's dream signing would be Donnarumma, but it's far from certain that Paris Saint-Germain will let him go. There's also reports, someone like Kinski might be more suited for Frank. I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, I love Vicario as a character. I like him in terms of that leadership aspect. I'd be lying if I said to you that I'm absolutely convinced on him from corners and set pieces. I've still got that worry in the back of my mind. It's a niggling doubt that I want to get over now as we're approaching his third season at Tottenham. Gut feeling a yes or a no, guys. Vicario, will he be the number one for Frank if he stays, or will, if he does? Where do we see that playing out? Jonny, Frank,
well,
Vicario.
Listen, he's not the complete goalkeeper.
Right.
It's as simple as that. He's a fantastic shot stopper.
Yep.
He'd been out when he came back from injury. I saw the stat. He'd made more saves than any other keeper in the Premier League. I don't know if that's because of our horrific defence making him make those saves. But he hasn't been good with his feet. We've seen him, vulnerable with his feet. And the one thing I think that Thomas Frank is not going to like, after 2 years. He still is vulnerable in the air. We've seen him vulnerable at set pieces. We've seen him vulnerable at corners. Yeah. And we saw the sublime and the ridiculous in that final, coming out and missing that ball and, Mickey van der Ven saving it. Yeah. And then that beautiful save right at the end. I think, can you improve on Vicario? 100% you can improve on Vicario. I think that maybe some of the young defenders, the centre backs, Archie Gray and the lot, might not miss him. They're screaming at him as when he's coming out. We've seen everyone be victim of that. Listen, he's a great leader. He's a motivator. He's an absolute lunatic, but he has frailties. And the question is, I don't think he's as complete goalkeeper as Mark Flecken, right? Who was at Brentford. I thought Mark Flecken was a great keeper, and he's now gone to Leverkusen. So who knows? I think Kinski's better in the air, but again, he has his frailties. Yeah. Can we improve? Yes, we can. Will I complain if we keep him? No, I won't.
Okay, interesting. Love that, Jonny. Thank you so much. Ash, very quickly, Vicario, rumours of an exit. Gut feeling, yes, no, very quickly.
Yeah, I just feel like there's more pressing issues at the moment for Spurs. So I don't think we'll settle, if I'm being totally honest.
Okay.
Unless Vicario was, pushing for the move. Yeah, so that's how I see it.
What does worry me, though, Bill, coming to you, is that we don't all seem unanimously kind of saying here, we have to keep this guy. We have to keep him. I mean, are you in that camp where we have to keep Vicario? Do you feel we could improve in that area?
I'm not in the we have to keep him, Cam, but I agree with Ash. It's not a priority at the moment. I think there's only so much turnover you can do in one summer. If we lose Romero and so on, which I hope we don't, I particularly hope we don't lose Romero. We've just changed manager. It's a lot of turnover. That's 3 huge players and a manager all in one summer. It's a lot to deal with. So I think it's certainly something we should maybe look to phase out over the next 2 to 3 years. I think Kinski's a really interesting one because he loves a chip. Thomas Frank loves a chip pass over the defence, and Kinski's really good at that. So that could be one to keep an eye on. But this summer, I'm not signing Vicario. It's just there's only so much you can strip from a squad before you're gonna have nothing left.
I love why we say that. It's too much to do. I mean, it's Tottenham, and we have got the capability of making things very, very confusing. But we've only just begun. I want to say a massive thank you, Jonny. Thank you so much, Jonny H3232. Jonny, we're waiting for you at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for the vlogs to come back and for you to be coming out of that stadium bursting with joy and energy and happiness and laughter.
Jonny, can I ask you a question, Jonny? You're going to do Luton away?
I'm actually.
I need the vlogs back.
I really want to be there. Can I just tell you something? Honestly and truthfully, that was of all the away games last season, the last few years, I loved Luton away. I felt really privileged going up there. That really was a proper throwback to the old days.
And Bromley as well. We got as well. That's one.
No, it's going to be special. Bodo was probably my favourite away game of last season, apart from Bilbao, obviously.
Of course.
Listen. I just don't want to relive coming out that stadium, those stadiums, 25 times last season. Miserable as sin, right? I don't need it. You don't need to listen to it. So.
I love what made me laugh is when those videos go up and go, Jonny, this is a copy and paste job. What do you want the bloke to say? I mean, what do you want him to say?
I know. I had people coming up to me in Bilbao saying to me, Jonny, please, mate, come out of that stadium. But the trouble was, by the time I came out of that stadium, I was pissed. Honestly, I could barely get my words out.
It was just the face that would kill me. Just the face when he came on. Just the face.
Let's relive that. This fan base, like winning is contagious. And like you said, Ricky, and it's the Carabao Cup. Or hang on, It's the Super
It'll be
Cup.
the Super Cup.
We
We
could
could have
end up.
two trophies in 4 months.
Yeah, listen, we could end the season
Yeah.
pissing Arsenal off by winning a trophy, and we can upset them big time by starting the season winning a trophy.
Oh,
Right?
tell
They'll
you,
be able to live
brilliant.
with themselves.
Brilliant, brilliant. Will Thomas Frank do the deed? Will he win a trophy in his first
You
season?
imagine?
Unbelievable. Johnny, you've been a star. Make sure you check Johnny out. Talking Tottenham 882 on Instagram. And of course, Johnny H3232 on X. He's got Football Link as well, a channel there that's growing very quickly with Sean. We wish him the best with that. Johnny, thank you so much. Ash, thank you. We're driving you mad across the summer. It's meant to be a break, but we've taken off the Sunlander whenever we can. Ash, thank you, mate. I'm sure there's loads of stuff coming on Spurs Kings TV. Am I right in saying, Ash? Busy over there?
Yeah, just some bits and bobs we're throwing down. Make sure you tune us out. We're in tomorrow again. So yeah, guys, come over, subscribe, and make sure you like this as well.
Bless you. You're a superstar. We'll see you towards the end of the week. Bill, thank you so much. Double shift for Bill. Bless him. Back to back. He's here with us tomorrow for the fixture release, where that'll be interesting. It always is. We'll know Thomas Frank's first games in charge and all the excitement. And like Bill says about where the London derbies drop, we need to win London derbies. But overall, Bill, positive. PMA, are we at the moment? Are we feeling confident? Are we feeling happy?
Yeah, man. I'm feeling confident. I'm looking forward to seeing where the Arsenal Chelsea fixtures are tomorrow. And hoping getting the first win there in a very long time. Let's hope.
There you go. What's this club doing to us?
Who are you waiting for? Who are you dreaming of? I mean, let's I mean,
Sunderland away. Sunderland away, first game.
Sunderland.
I can't do that under Martin yet. Was it under? Who was it under again? Was it under Yole where we lost with Keane?
I think it was
Yole,
mate. Yeah.
Lost
1-0.
Last minute
Yeah.
Chopra. Do you remember that Chopra in the last minute?
Yeah, Chopra.
Midweek
Oh,
game,
my
wasn't it?
God.
Midweek.
Oh,
yeah.
I'll tell you. Michael Chopra ruining the first day of the season. What we've gone through at this football club. I'd love a home game. A home game we love it for Frank. A home game would be
Never
lovely.
play at home in the first game of the season ever.
It's always
Yeah.
away. Listen, maybe we'll be surprised. Bill, thank you to you. The wonderful Billie T, of course, on X. Follow him if you need a pick-me-up or some comedy. Bill got you covered. Look, from the wonderful Johnny H, from the superb Ashmatic, from the brilliant Billie T. We've been the last word on Spurs. Are Tottenham changing? We shall see. From us all, keep safe, keep well, keep liking, keep subscribing. And as always, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.